So, David, thank you for joining us on Secure Insights. David DellaPelle, you're the co-founder and CEO at Dune Security. Thanks very much for coming on board. I know we've tried to fit this in over the last few months. I know you've been busy ramping up with Dune.
Yeah, Nick, thanks so much for having me today.
So, for those that don't know who Dune are you able to just start and shed a bit of light as to what Dune Security is and maybe why you kind of founded it, co-founded it, and built it?
Yeah, thanks so much for that. So, Nick, we were looking at the problem of user behavior, right? Social engineering, insider threats. This was a little over 3 years ago, and I realized that the biggest problem in cybersecurity was this user behavior problem, right? Causing 90% of breaches. And there was kind of a fake solution on the market. There was a solution on the market called security awareness training that every company was paying for, but they weren't actually getting risk reduction. What they were getting was standardized testing and training, and they were getting a compliance checkbox, right? And what happened was high risk users were not held accountable, low risk users' time was wasted, and it created this adversarial relationship between the CISO and their organization and end users. And so what we did was we decided, okay, what if we turn this problem on its head? What if we can take in a bunch of data about users and create sort of a credit score of user risk for each user in the company from 1 to 100. 100 is the highest risk employee in the company. And what we found was this was a much more effective solution for actually quantifying user risk. And then in doing so, we're able to actually remediate that risk individually for each user. So it's a great replacement for security awareness training, but it goes far, far beyond that.
So, in terms of the platform, like you say, there's a whole host of cybersecurity training companies out in the market, and always has been. How do you guys kind of differ from the standard security training organization?
Yeah. Well, security awareness training is typically, and I can share a screen here, Nick, if that's helpful on a quick
Yeah, cool.
diagram, if that's possible.
Yeah.
If you think about security awareness training, it's inherently limited because there's really no data that you're able to pull, and training and testing is not specific to users. And so we pull in a variety of risk inputs and build a credit score of user risk for each user in the company. And so every piece of training that people receive, it's only sent to them specifically based on the risk profile and the role. And it's also only delivered when it can be effective, right? For some users, no amount of training can be effective, and that's when we actually want to restrict access and lock down users.
Hmm. Okay, cool. So, in terms of human risk, again, 90% is still human risk related, isn't it? That we're seeing out there. What do you see most organizations misunderstanding about human risk in cybersecurity? Because 90% still, this has been going on for years and years and years, yet it's still human interacted.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just if someone's clicking a phishing email that's just individualized to that
Mm,
individual. It's the key thing here is each message needs to be hyper specific to the individual based on what we're seeing in the wild. So the threat intelligence based on what we're seeing for that role and for that company,
mm,
right? And so you can actually start to get better data if you have like omni-channel AI attacks, right? We're doing a lot of conversational two-way red teaming, for example,
mm.
and so very powerful stuff. And I think what's exciting about this time is that the attacks are changing dramatically, right? AI has rapidly changed the landscape. The attackers are using the new technologies, and so the defenders have to as well in a sort of a red team posture.
Yeah, and we'll talk about how in a minute. We'll segue nicely into that. And I think you recently released the 2025 Insider Threat Intelligence Report. What prompted you to publish that research now?
Yeah, it's a good question. So what we found is that only 12% of CISOs think that security awareness training as it stands today is sufficient. right? And we're seeing AI personalized phishing drives 3 times more user interaction or failure than a traditional, templated phishing message.
Hmm. Hmm.
And what we found was that 30%, so roughly a third of the users who clicked on AI personalized phishing went as far as to enter in their MFA. They went all the way down that kill chain. And so the world is getting much scarier. And so I think this data was highly relevant and important for us to release.
And when you say multi-channel, obviously you mentioned the AI piece, but what other social engineering routes are coming through that people are getting sucked into that's common?
Yeah, I mean it's not just email, right? It's not just email. We're also seeing phishing, right? A phone
Mm.
call, right? It could even be a deep fake of a leader in the company at
Hmm.
hand. We're also seeing omni-channel via encrypted channels, right? Signal, WhatsApp, Telegram, for example. Really, wherever the users are and however they can be reached, the attackers are going to break in that way. And,
So
and
just
so, yeah.
sorry to cut across. Sorry. So just in terms of if I was then working at one of these, big enterprise organizations, I'm in finance or customer service, whatever, or tech, um, and the platform would then in real time would risk assess me as well as an individual within the organization to all these sort of different social engineering levels, and then action could be taken appropriately, whether I get bespoke training. And is that automated as well? Is that sort of something that happens automatically?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, instead of sending a phishing email, which is like a Best Buy coupon to every employee in the company, right,
Mm.
to simulate or even to try to break in if you're the attacker, what we're doing is quite different in that every user can receive an attack, right, a simulated attack that's specific to their role and to their company,
Mm.
right? So an accounts payable rep at company ABC can get a hyper specific message that looks exactly like the attackers if they were really trying to break in would be sending. And so if you think about it, I mean, we have the best technology in this space, but we're also we're kind of racing against the attackers, right? To build the best
Mm.
technology to find the risks and to remediate those risks.
So I've been in the industry for a number of years now on the recruitment side, and it's always been, the human interaction has always been sort of the highest percentage issue of where the attacks happen. How can or when do you see that figure coming down?
I mean, it's not coming down. The only way it's going to come down is if the non-human identities, like agents, right,
Mm.
are actually doing more work in the enterprise. Because if you, just like you can socially engineer a human, you can socially engineer an agent or an AI,
Mm.
right? And so, I mean, it's very clear that the attacks are still going to come in through social engineering, insider threats. They're not going to break down the castle walls. They're going to find their ways through the castle walls, under, over, and around, right?
And the percentage between sort of careless and then manipulated, how does that look out there at the moment, David?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So we have some good data on this. So uh, there are different motivational factors in social engineering,
Mm.
right? And I can get to your piece in a second here, but just to talk about what would convince a user to fall for social engineering, what we found is that authority-based attacks are far more powerful than reward-based attacks, right? So if it's coming from the CEO or from the manager, it's far more effective.
Mm.
And so that's one thing. I think, social engineering is still dwarfing insider threat, but insider threat is scary because if someone is malicious or complicit on the inside, that's you're done as a CISO, right? You've opened up
Mm.
the castle gates.
Mm. Yeah, and the percentage out there, I think I saw in a report that it's a 5% problem. It's 5% of the workforce that the issues lie. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm. Okay. And I guess I think you mentioned it across some of your content. The death of legacy security awareness training is uh, is becoming sort of history very quickly. When do you think that I guess the AI revolution is really going to take hold of this of this sector, training sector and awareness sector?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's happening now, right? I think 2025 was kind of the year that security awareness training was declared broken, and you need a better user risk solution, right? And so what
Mm,
we're doing is we're pulling in data points from the rest of the stack, right? Specific to user risk, and so things like anomalous activity and risky behavior. So once you can gain that kind of 360 picture on user risk, you can actually remediate risk. So security awareness training is clearly broken. Only 12% of CISOs say that their current solutions are effective.
mm.
Uh, and anything standardized is not going to work. So it has to be a comprehensive, cohesive platform.
Who's winning? Who's winning that war, if you like, at the moment? In your opinion, what do you see out there with the CISOs?
Who's winning the war of social engineering?
Who's winning the war around the new AI agent-led um, breaches and attacking the bad guys, if you like, versus
Oh,
cybersecurity defense companies?
yeah. I mean, I think the attackers have the leg up because they're using open source models, they're using non-guardrailed models to launch
Mm,
their attacks. And so it's pretty daunting to be a CISO today because the
mm,
attackers are able to, they're kind of like they have the weapons that the CISOs are not allowed to use in a way, right? And oftentimes the HR, the regulatory requirements are also quite restrictive. And so it's important for CISOs to be using next generation solutions because the
mm.
attackers certainly aren't hamstrung and they're using very cheap, AI-based solutions that are often open source. They're often non-guardrail models.
So, do you see in the enterprise space um, organizations being constantly sort of still being quite reactive to this, opposed to actually kind of coming at it from a AI-driven proactive perspective?
I think that's right. I think that's absolutely right. I think when companies are experiencing a some sort of breach or some sort of attack, that's when they start to bring on different solutions.
Mm.
But it might be too late at that point, right? And so it's important for CISOs to think very proactively about this.
Yeah. And budget-wise, are they? Would you say that you're seeing, because that's always a bit of a battle, isn't it? Organizations tend to react post breach attack or whatever, and then start throwing sort of the big budget at tech and solutions. Have you seen a shift where um, budgets are more coming to the fray, being more proactive in that sense?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, I think some companies, we think a lot about crossing the chasm, right? And
Mm,
we think a lot about the uh, breaking into different markets, right? And you have to talk to the visionaries and the innovators initially, and so
mm,
that's very important. And so, yeah, I think it's starting to shift a little bit, but not 100%.
yeah. Okay. Interesting stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. Like I say, we've been in it for a number of years, and we've seen a big shift over on the cybersecurity awareness side. So, I mean, you're a few years old now, aren't you, June? I think
Yeah, the
as an
company the
organisation.
company's 2.5 years old currently.
Yeah, yeah. So, I guess as a founder and a CEO and sort of starting off with that organized chaos environment and doing everything to then sort of getting seed and then growing again. Um, a lot of our listeners, they're either planning to start their own company, or you've got organizations, you've got founders that are at seed or Series A, gone to Series B. What would be your kind of take and message to somebody looking to replicate what you've done?
Like what are the most important things that we've done to grow the company?
Yeah, the I guess what are the hardest lessons that you've learned building June, and maybe something you would, if I had my time again, the first 12 months, I might do that differently.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think probably the most important thing that we've done um, has been to build incredibly strong partnerships with industry leading CISOs, right? And just talk to the first year I think I spoke to probably uh, 400 CISOs in a pretty short period of time, and just talk to them and build relationships. I think ultimately relationships are critical, and it's important to kind of get the insight from the market so that you know what to build, right? You don't want to build in the wrong direction. It's better to build in the wrong direction than to not build at all. But it's ideally if you can kind of, I think what's nice about our product roadmap is that we've been able to be a bit linear in our growth in terms of how we have built upon the product roadmap. We haven't really had to pivot, right? We've had a clear direction of quantifying user risk and then reducing user risk automatically. And so I think it's just expanded linearly from there, which has been quite exciting.
Yeah, I was going to ask actually if you had to pivot, but you covered that. So in 3 years' time from now, it's going to be everything's going to look very, very different. It's everything's changing and evolving at speed here, 12, 24, etc. months down the road. But in 3 years' time, what would you like the landscape to look like from a sort of an enterprise environment, from a human risk perspective?
Yeah, I think that CISOs are starting to realize the importance of some sort of more holistic user risk management platform, right? Especially if they're starting to bring on non-human users like agents into their workforce, AI workforce, right? And I think what's important is for CISOs to start to use solutions like Dune Security. We think our solution is the leading solution for Fortune 500 and enterprises, and we've had a lot of traction. But I think as we start to move forward, it's important for CISOs to kind of move like more into that proactive posture rather than a little bit more of the reactive posture. And we've had some amazing partnerships with amazing companies like Culligan and OSF Healthcare and Concentrix and many others. Obviously, a lot that we can't mention. We don't have a marketing right with, and so yeah, I think it's been an exciting time.
Cool, good stuff. Brilliant. And in terms of if people want to reach out to you to connect and ask for more details or look to join you guys, where can they find you, David?
Yeah, I mean, we're based in New York City, first of all. I think if people want to join the company, we're hiring very rapidly. We're growing very quickly and hiring very rapidly. And so I think the best place to reach us is if you want to work here is our job posts, right? We have 5 roles posted currently. We'll be increasing that pretty dramatically, and I think that's the best way to reach us. We tend to have we love referrals, but we have a pretty meritocratic hiring process, and so we look at every application that comes in. I think that's probably the best way to reach us.
Yeah, cool, nice, sounds good. Well, thank you very much for sharing your current journey. Still only 2.5 years in, but achieved some great success. Wishing you guys all the best for 2026. And maybe catch up again in a couple of years just to see what it all looks like.
Thanks so much, Nick. I appreciate it. Bye for now.
See you later.